So, welcome everyone. This is February's Photo Time with Consistently Creative Crew, and I'm Kari, and I'm here with Cheryl and Colleen, and we appreciate everybody being here this evening. So, last year we did a home inventory, and like many people, I didn't finish it. But now that I'm actually in the process of downsizing a bunch of things, I am realizing a few things, not only about myself, but I think about some other people. Because it's not the items that I really want to keep, and it really isn't the items that I'm ready to let go of. It's the ones that I don't know what to do with. They sit there because I just don't want to make the wrong decision. I don't want to lose the meaning. I don't want to lose the story. And I don't want someone later wondering, why did she keep this? Or why did she let that go? Because I remember we used to have that. And that's where this idea kind of came together for me. So, in this past year, one of the book clubs that I'm involved in read this book, Let It Go by Peter Walsh, and it's about releasing physical things. And one of the Forever Ambassadors who's in the book club made a connection that really resonated with me about you could let go of the object without letting go of the story. And as we were talking more about that, it really changed everything because it made me think a little bit more about decluttering, what I have, what I want to keep, what I don't want to keep. So tonight's not really about decluttering or downsizing. It's not really inventorying everything. It's not even really making all the decisions, but it's about creating a place for all those things that are, I need to deal with this later, and having a place to put them. Because sometimes that first step is the hardest one to take. And sometimes documenting it helps you make the decision and helps you figure out where you're going to go next. So, this framework isn't really a sorting system, really. It's really a kind of a reducing the pressure, reducing the stress system, because most of the time, advice thinks about, are you going to keep it or are you going to toss it? But the hard things aren't necessarily that straightforward. So we're adding a middle step about documenting. So the love it step is really simple. These are the items you know you're keeping, at least for now. But even here, documenting matters because someday someone may still wonder, why did that thing matter? Then the next category listed is the one that really gives the most relief. These are the items you're not quite ready to decide about. Maybe you previously would have shoved them back in the drawer or put them back in the box or piled them up on the table and felt guilty about them later on. So now documenting the story first, and that tends to release fear, has you acknowledge some of the memories, some of the meaning behind various things. And once the meaning's preserved, it's easier to make some of our decisions. Then there's let it go. And it doesn't mean that that item didn't matter. It just means that it had meaning at one point, but maybe it doesn't have meaning at this point in time. But once the meaning's captured and that story is preserved, the object feels different and it feels more intentional. So when you don't really know what to do first, you can start with documenting. So, thinking about tonight and what success looks like, it doesn't mean finishing a room. It's not making a complete inventory. It's not even really making all the decisions. It's building the container for everything that you have and maybe documenting one item. And that's it. That's all you need to do. And if all you do tonight is create some albums, you've made some progress because the next time you're looking at something and thinking, I really don't know what to do with this, it will have some place to go. And I'm truly a believer that you've got to make the first step really small in order to be able to make progress. So I think hopefully tonight, by shrinking that first step and having some kind of structure with that, it will make it easier to move forward. So two things tonight. You can just build your album structure and stop there, or you can build your album structure and document one item. because it's not about productivity. It's not getting the most things done. It's just about reducing some friction and some decision points. So if you leave tonight with some albums ready to use and then you have a place for them, that's a huge win. And if you document one item, that's also a win. So no one's behind and no one is ahead because we're all in this together. So before we really document anything, we need to build the first container. And when that container exists, decisions get easier. So we're going to start with one main album. And it really doesn't matter what you call it. There are some ideas here on the screen because you could call it memorabilia, you could call it household stories or family treasures or love it, list it, let it go. It doesn't matter because you can change it any place else, anytime down the future that you want to change it, but the name should feel natural to you. So I'm going to jump over to my Forever account and I am going to just remind people who might be watching the recording how to create an album. So from my album page, I can create an album and I am going to uh, just title it, love it, list it, and let it go. And for now, I'm just going to keep it private because I don't really need anybody else to see the work that I have in progress. But at a later point, I will open that up. I'm actually going to add some spaces in here. So there we go. All right, and then create new album. And it's as simple as that. And everybody wants to take a moment to go ahead and do that. If you are in your account, you can take a moment and we'll do that. I will pause. Actually, no, I won't pause the recording because we won't spend too much long time. So again, it doesn't matter what title. It's just basically a bucket, a container to hold on to those things. All right, so once we've created the main album, we're going to add some nested albums, but don't overthink it. And I'm giving a couple of ideas because various people think in different terms. So if you're thinking about spaces or in rooms, something room-based might feel natural, something like living room or kitchen or um, kids' room or basement. By person, you might be thinking about what goes to kids or grandkids or what came from which side of the family. Person-based might make sense. And you might have a combination of these nested albums, and they might kind of evolve as time goes on. Then there's like category. Maybe things like artwork or collections or heirlooms or furniture, thing that might work better or by life stage if things are connected with different stages in your life, like childhood, college, young adult, early marriage, certain homes, certain locations, that might really feel better for you. Then there's decision status. If you're kind of thinking keep, not really sure, gift it to somebody, release it, that's valid too. So maybe one or two of those may have made some sense to you. Remember, you're not like trying to build a museum catalog of your house with everything in that. You're just building something that gives it a home so that when you take photos of them, you have a place to put them. So I'm going to go ahead and go back into my account and I am going to go to that album and I'm going to create some nested albums here. And so in this case, when you're creating nested albums, you're going to go to the three dots and you're going to add nested. So this is the easiest way to do it, to be in the album that you're actually working in. And so I am, for right now, I'm starting with kitchen because I have a number of kitchen items. So I'm going to create an album for that. I am also going to create a separate album for uh, children's artwork. And I am going to add one more for unsure. Just to have a couple of ones that kind of resonate with me. So I'm going to pause the recording, give people a moment. Okay, back to the other screen. All right. So a few other places that, might be helpful to you as far as other ideas. You can create some of these albums now, even if they're empty, because you're just thinking about maybe spaces like in the living room, furniture that's there, certain uh, art decor or mementos, kitchen that might have dishes or tools, family heirlooms, because meaning might matter more than whatever location you happen to keep it at. There's also things like artwork or collections if you have things that maybe feel too special to toss, but maybe you have too many to keep, especially if you're going through the process of significant downsizing. So these are just holding spaces to be able to put some things. Um, so I created a few albums and it's just preparation for things. So some additional inspiration might uh, be helpful. So sometimes we have heirlooms by family line. Sometimes things come from one side of the family or the other side of the family, something very special and significant. And so sometimes that's helpful. I have, and maybe many others have, a lot of artwork that is, I don't know what the heck to do with this, but I feel badly throwing it out. So I am going to find a place or a space for it and keep the story. Sometimes collections are really hard because they felt meaningful as a group, maybe an inherited collection from somebody, maybe stamps or maybe baseball cards, maybe things like military memorabilia because they have some significance to things that individuals have done or earned. Maybe there's things about uh, that stayed in one house but couldn't really move to the next location, but photographing them and keeping the story helps you preserve that information. So just a couple of additional ideas for you. So one thing that I think is very helpful is to add some album descriptions about things as you're thinking about whatever kinds of things you have in your house that you might be leaving to future generations as to where did they come from? Why are they important? What should they be doing with them? That's kind of the whole process of what the book Let It Go was talking about. But sometimes just having some idea of where to start or giving some kinds of descriptions are really helpful. So why does this group of items exist in your life? You can even add something like these are from my grandmother's home. That is enough to give some relative importance or significance to things. Maybe things like what kinds of items belong here. Maybe something, as I was talking, strikes you mentally about something that you have or something that you have a photo of. That's something that you can capture and put into an album description. Even things like, I don't even know who this belonged to, but I think it was this person's or it was important because of this. It gives your loved ones a clue. So future generations don't really need perfection. They need some breadcrumbs. So I am going to, based on some of the stuff that I had here, I'm going to add an album a little bit in the description here. Collections of mugs and drinking glasses. So we downsized a whole bunch of mugs and drinking glasses, and I'm going to be adding a couple of those to my album later on. I'm going to go to the children's artwork, and I'm just going to include something here, pottery. Something that I want to add into that album. So I've got that just a little bit set up. So I am going to skip over this. So, well, actually, no. So if you have something that you might want to add, you can document it. You don't have to. If you have something nearby, it's fine. But again, don't need to do this. And we're going to have some live time to actually work on this in just a little bit. But don't overthink it for tonight. We're just trying to build up a structure and kind of get something set up for the future. So telling the story about any item that you actually put into one of these albums. You don't need a novel. One or two sentences is enough. You can start simple, just say what it is, and give some information about why it matters and why somebody in the future might care, because even one or two sentences can change everything. So, and you can even be honest with saying, I'm not sure yet, because that's even honest and helpful. So don't let things like typing slow you down. Feel free to use talk to text, and things can be actually clarified later on. So I'm going to add a couple things and then add something off. All right, so this is a piece of pottery that was decorated by some students that I was teaching when they were in middle school. And I've had it for all these years. It kind of got stacked up in a corner. I didn't know what to do with it, but since we are in the process of downsizing prior to a move, I decided it was time to get rid of it. It was appreciated, but I didn't know what to do with it. So I decided, you know what, this would be something that would be worth taking a photo of, even though I'm not going to keep it forever. So I'm going to put a note in here. So it was for the fundraising gala. And I have multiple versions of the same thing. I don't think I need to keep all of them, so I'm actually going to discard two of them. And I had taken some other ones where the coloring just didn't look good. So I'm actually going to get rid of those also. So now I've kept one of the items. I am not going to, I'll go back and I can do a second one. I should probably keep one of the ones that have the back, because this actually says who it was. So this is the back side. And I don't need to keep the one that was at an angle. And I don't need to keep the other one. So there was a second one from a different year, and I will go back and add to those stories also. And I will eventually kind of move these together so that they are, actually I can customize my order right now so that those two items are shown right next to each other. And here we go. So the two items, so I've got the front of the dish and the back of the dish, and then I'll go through later on and work on these as we're going through. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of an idea of some of the information that you can do, some of the things you can capture in all of this. And we did have a question about if we have a voicemail you want to save into one of these types of albums, can you do that? And if so, how? And yes, and the best way to do it is to go into the voicemail on your phone, and then you can send it to forever by selecting it. And once you send it to forever, it'll be in your account. And it's basically by going in and just sharing it, just like you would share a photo or share anything else on your phone. And I don't have my phone set up and hooked up, but I can get that set up later on and share that. But hopefully that helps a little bit.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. Okay, and just
Wait,
to remind,
I
yes,
didn't follow that. So if you have a voicemail, how
yes.
would you share it with forever?
So it's already a digital recording that lives somewhere and your phone has access to it, and you are able to go onto your phone and select that actual voicemail. Um, let me,
Yeah.
and I will demo it when you've got the little share button on it, the little box with the upwards arrow. When you're in the voicemail, then you should have the ability
Oh,
to
there it is. Yeah.
share it with the Forever app, which is living on your phone. And when you do that, it will show up in your account.
Shut the heck up.
No. And it works not only with voicemail, but voice memos or anything else that you might have. So if you have like an audio recording of somebody or something, you can do the same thing. Or you can even just create a voice memo, which is kind of interesting if you're like have a story that you want to tell about a specific item. So I have some things in my home that I think would be more meaningful for me to actually tell the story. I can audio record myself and then save it with the item in the album. Does that all help? Yes.
So
Okay.
it just shows up in oh, here it is.
Yes, it just shows up in your account. Isn't that magical?
Oh, 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 oh,
Oh,
oh,
oh.
oh. Okay.
All right. So I
He may have said
hopefully
a couple of choice words I don't want you guys
it's
to
okay.
hear.
That's okay.
Okay, cool.
YouTube will bleep it out if it needs to. So telling the story and great point, it doesn't even have to be a written story. It could be talk to text. It could also be an audio recording of you talking about the particular item, whatever it is. It could be a holiday decoration. It could be a certain dish or bowl or something else that's in your home. It could be something that you have, kind of like what I had, these pottery dishes that were decorated by students that I taught, but I don't have meaning to keep them anymore. They're not something that I uh, intend to keep forever, and certainly don't intend for my daughter to hold on to. So oftentimes we think of value in terms of dollars, but most of the things that we're trying to decide about or trying to preserve information about, it's not because they're expensive. It's the things that carry emotional weight. So sometimes when you're trying to declutter or downsize a room or tidy it up, it's the things that make you hesitate. The hesitation is some kind of information, maybe because there's some meaning attached to it. So even if you decide that you're ultimately working towards letting something go, the fact that it mattered still deserves some kind of acknowledgement. And sometimes it's just saying, I don't even know right now, but sometimes it gets easier as you separate things like that have monetary value from emotional or meaningful value. And the nice thing about sharing is that even as you're going through this type of process, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're parting with anything or giving anything away. It simply means that the people that you love know that that story existed. You can share now, you can share later, you can share with people who are connections in your Forever account. Um, Sometimes sharing means giving things away, but a lot of times it doesn't. Sometimes it's just documentation of this is why this was here. This is why we had it. So sharing some kind of context doesn't lock you into any specific outcome. And stories tend to reduce future confusion. And if any of you have gone through the loss of a relative and had to go through their things and trying to make decisions about what to do with the things, what to do with the items, if you had had just a little bit of information, it can make some of that process so much easier. So most of the time, conflict after losing someone in your life, it's not about the money, it's about the uncertainty. It's so when that meaning is documented, your guessing decreases. So sharing some of that preserves all of that. And again, it doesn't have to be shared today. It doesn't have to be shared, next week, but it's when you're ready. And the nice thing about having our Forever accounts set up is that we're able to share those things as we need to, or if we need additional information from people. So we're going to have a little bit of work time for people to think, brainstorm, talking about items. Again, this was not intended to do a whole huge inventory. This was just a place to kind of get started and process a little bit. So kind of the key things that I was thinking about as I was trying to figure out how to structure this tonight was one, set up a main album. Two, think about a couple of nested album ideas that seem to resonate with maybe what you have. And then think about what are the kinds of things that you definitely want to capture in here. Use that album description to have, start listing some ideas, listing some items that are important. If you decide that you want to photograph something, or you already do have a photograph of something, you can do that, upload it, add it to the album, and write a really short description about it. So I'm going to stop the recording so we can work and brainstorm. All right, so it is almost time for us to end for today, and we have done, a variety of things, working on different photos and talking about how to do things. And so I was going to ask one person to share something that kind of came up as an idea of one thing that you could capture. So, Angela,
Okay.
would you share that?
Yeah. So I had a friend who was moving, downsizing, and her husband had all these awards from when he was in high school and college. And he didn't want her to get rid of all his trophies and medals. So what she did is she took a picture of all of it and documented it and made an album, a Creative Memories album. So then they were able to get rid of all of the trophies, and yet he had the keepsake of a book with all his memories of his sports and accomplishments. I
That's
think it's a great,
awesome.
great idea.
It is.
I want to do it for something.
If you don't have some to do that with, I'm sure somebody can, contribute some pictures for you and you can make an album for them.
I think she has enough stuff. Trust me.
Stuff. I got a lot of stuff.
All right. So does anybody have anything else that kind of came up tonight as we were wandering through this or working on it that we wanted to catch? All right. So, moving on, if I can get my computer to cooperate. Sometimes it's great having two screens. Okay, so just thinking about it, a lot of decisions didn't have to happen. You didn't have to document a whole lot, but anything that you do record or that you do keep kind of changes things for people in the future. So I'm going to just share a couple of things that I did. So my daughter had this water bottle that she got at SeaWorld in Orlando, and we bought it with a kids' meal, and it was one of those buy it and get free refills for the whole time you're there. And a lot of times it doesn't make any sense, but we were actually staying across the street at SeaWorld for a whole week. So we were going there every day. So Becca would take her little penguin thermos and take it over there. But I don't anticipate that we're going to be keeping that for very long. So it didn't seem like something that we really wanted to have forever. But the story's there. And I also have this from a trip. Again, our daughter bought it for us as an anniversary gift when we were at Disney World, and she thought it was the perfect gift for us because we both are tea drinkers. And it had a picture of Lady and the Tramp, and we love dogs. And it had this little heart in it, but it was some like the first gift she gave us that had been purchased with her own money. So capturing the story here, even though we're keeping the mugs, I thought it might be worthwhile to just capture that story so that I have that to live on in the future. And she may not remember it. I don't know, honestly, if she remembers that, her excitement about all of that. So I do think that a lot of times the stress that families feel when they're going through someone else's home, it's not about the stuff. It's about not knowing what really mattered, not knowing the meaning something had, or not knowing what was important. So when you document even one thing in your home, you remove one layer of guessing from future people who are going to be going through your items. It's not really organization, it's really kindness for them. So it's not about finishing, it's not getting to the finish line. And I'm hoping that some of these thoughts and these ideas resonate with you because preserving that context is, very helpful to other people. So some future ideas for things that you can kind of think about is not a huge process, but as you're going through your week, if something stands out to you, take a quick photo of it and document it and adding a little bit about that item. You don't have to finish a room. You don't have to go through a whole closet or anything, but just one item as you see it. Take a quick picture and know that you already have a space for it in your account. So you don't have to come up with something or try to figure out. And if that doesn't happen this week, but it might happen a month from now, that's okay too, because the structure can already be there. So it's not about speed, but it gives you a place to keep these things uh, one item at a time. So tonight really wasn't about decluttering. It really wasn't about making these decisions, but it was about giving some of these items that have a story behind them and a place to put them. So when that meaning is preserved, not only for yourself, but for other family members, it makes it easier to deal with them both now and in the future. So hopefully, I hope that some of that was helpful to all of you tonight and that you made some progress, whether you were working on this or something else. But I appreciate all of everyone's time. So thank you so much, and we will see you together either next week to work on our simple page kit or next month.